These are my favorite books of the year so far. I've had a pretty good year of reading. I hope you have too. I think I've read about 25 books. And to be honest, this has been a year of great reads. It was very hard for me to narrow it down, but there was definitely some books that stood out. I haven't really been reading as much as I usually do, but the books that I have been reading have been incredible journeys, some different genres that I haven't explored, and really opened up my eyes to what sort of novels and ultimately stories that I'm looking to encounter. So let's talk about the fifth book on this list. We're going to do 5. It could have been any book, honestly. I read All Fours by Miranda July, which I really liked. I read Walking Through Clear Water in a Pool Painted Black by Cookie Mueller that I really liked. I read Cue the Sun, which is a book all about the history of reality television, which I really liked. I read The Pearl by John Steinbeck, which you guessed it, really liked. There's been a lot of great little stories that I've encountered this year. But for my 5th one, I'm going to choose My Dark Vanessa. And I made a video about it, talking about books that radically changed me. And I choose this book because I had so many preconceived notions about this book. I had so many ideas about what this book was going to be. And the overall story that this book told for me, the experience that I had with this book, was so vastly different than what me previously thought I was going to encounter. My Dark Vanessa was such a popular book when it first came out. I remember seeing that ugly ass cover everywhere, thinking to myself, surely this is just kind of like another little cash grab, another book that it has these really haunting elements. This can't be telling such a grounded and real story. This has to just be something that doesn't really, I don't know, gel with the reality of my world. Well, when I read this blew my mind how captivated I was by this story. It follows this girl in her early 30s, and the book opens showing kind of this disheveled life that she has, going between chapters of her being in this prep school and having this really predatory relationship. I even hate to use the word relationship, this grooming with this much older teacher, and it's showing how it has affected her as an adult in wake of the 2017 Me Too movements, where a bunch of other girls are coming forward with allegations against this teacher. First of all, this book really, I listened to it on audiobook. I think Meryl Streep's daughter read it. Great. She did a great job. She moved me more than I thought I could be moved. Really. And I was moving on the subway already, and she kept me moving, okay? Great audiobook. Highly suggest it. I found myself squirming in public transit, squirming in my car when I was reading it, squirming just for how uncomfortable this girl, the situations that she was in, and just how manipulative and horrible this teacher was, this much older teacher. And the truth of the matter is that this is happening all the time. I think what this also wrestled with was the idea that there's not a perfect victim, right? A lot of the contention that the main character has is internally toward herself, the struggle of realizing how she was groomed, and the hatred, but also simultaneously the love that she still feels for this groomer and how much it has brainwashed her. Can't divide yourself from something that was so integral at such a foundational time in your life. Really made me step back and want to say, maybe I should give these books that I think are something else entirely a second chance, and I should just take my little pretentious nose and put it right down to the words and actually do the work. Do the work. Okay? I feel wrong doing that once talking about that book, because that's a very grave and sad reading experience, but I thought it was really good. And I understand why people liked it. I do. Okay. Now we're going to get into the physical books that I have, and you've been looking over here and you said, "What's that big boy? What's that big boy over here?" I'm a woman on the internet, okay? I see popular books. I know what people are reading. And I would be a little bit lost if I didn't say that Lonesome Dove is probably one of the most popular books on the internet right now, having a resurgence of popularity. This seems to be one of the most popular books online. I, of course, was introduced to it through comments, people suggesting me reading this book. I'd never heard of it. I'd never watched the show. I didn't know anything about McMurtry, though I had seen his name on a couple of books, but I just didn't know his relationship to the literary world and just how impressionable of a Western writer he was. Also, just how great of a storyteller. This book, I see it everywhere. I see it everywhere. Everybody's talking about reading it. Everybody's talking about the experience that they had reading it. And let me tell you, I made my book club read this. Now, did I finish this in a month? Absolutely not. Absolutely. I had to put this down, pick it back up. I think I read this in about 3 months, which still feels like it wasn't enough time. My version of this is coming in at, a little less than 900 pages. So not even that much of a behemoth. Bohemian mammoth? Behemoth? Like it could be. This did take me some time. If you haven't been on the internet, or if you haven't seen anybody talk about this book, consider yourself, wow, you're doing it. You are not in with the rest of us. But this follows these ranchers and their journey from Texas to Montana, cattle herding, and the vast group of characters that are surrounding their stories. And it just branches off into this great detailing of the people during that time period, this really Old West mentality, the way that people were trying to live their lives as well as they can in these incredibly rural and destitute areas. Wonderful writing, great storytelling. I think I enjoyed the latter half of this book much more than the first part. I think I related to the characters a little bit more. There was some great female characters that were introduced. As much as they might be polarizing, some of these female characters I found so interesting. There's a character later introduced, Clara. Well, she's referenced in the beginning of this book, but her character to me resonated with me so deeply, and I think that I enjoyed her story so much. I think what shocked me about this book so much is that this is much more violent and disruptive in nature than I was led to believe. I thought that this was going to be just a heartwarming Western story. No. McMurtry goes so into the realities of the West and how brutal it was, how no lives were spared. Without spoiling too much about this book, any character that you become attached to, don't get too attached. There's a good chance that give it 20 pages. They might not be there anymore. That's not spoiling anything, but I will say that was the shock of reading this book, was just how brutal that McMurtry was to just show the realities of what was happening to these people out west. There might also be little snippets of me liking this because so many people do like this. I can get down with a great story. Westerns aren't naturally what I gravitate toward, but I think there's so much. The broad and vastness of the West is what contributes to this very slow and languid storytelling that I really generally do like. But I do think that a lot of my judgment toward this is because I am told that I have to like it. Would I pick this out and reread it again? I'm not sure. But I do think that I'm very happy that I accomplished reading this. And I feel like I'm right in there with everybody else on the internet. I feel like I'm right in there jumping on the trend, and it was a good trend. I'm happy I did it. Can't complain, no regrets. Okay, after that, I don't even have this book on me right now because I gave it to my dad to read, but I made a whole video talking about this book. I'm always trying to challenge myself, right? I think I have a pretty wide array of genres and books that I'm dipping into. I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sleep by Philip K. Dick. I told myself a long time ago that I wanted to read more of Philip K. Dick's works. This was the first time I actually read one of his stories. I read one of his speeches a while ago. Actually, it's right here. Hold on. How to Build a Universe That Doesn't Fall Apart 2 Days Later by Philip K. Dick. So I became very intrigued by this sci-fi cyberpunk world. Also, gonna say something crazy and a little controversial. I've never watched Blade Runner. I'd never watched Blade Runner. I know the general idea of Blade Runner, never seen it. So going into Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is the literary basis for Blade Runner, I had really no idea what I was getting into. That was published in the 1960s. So pertinent to today. Really unbelievable how much that foreshadows a lot of what we're experiencing now, a lot of this fear of life existing past humans. So this follows a bounty hunter, and he is tasked to eliminate these robots who are so good at impersonating humans, and there's this empathy test that they have to pass in order to really scale and see if they are indeed robots or if they are humans. What I loved about this was, it was a genre that I'm not usually reading. I'm not really getting into sci-fi. This transcends sci-fi. This goes so much into the human experiences and the fears that we have outside of just existing and what could slightly overpower us. Crazy also is because this was written in the 60s. I think this takes place in 2026 is when the book is supposed to be. 2021 or 2026. Wild, just the landing that had. I loved this. Great story. Incredibly accessible if you're not into the sci-fi world. I think there's a lot of worry that maybe you're not going to be able to wrap your head around it. I did start to read Neuromancer. I haven't finished it yet. I was listening to it on audiobook, and that felt much more convoluted. This, so accessible, great writing. And Philip K. Dick, what an interesting character to research. If you do have the time to do any sort of research alongside, I suggest getting into it because he had a very incredibly strong mind, very worrisome mind. You can see how that goes into his writing, and it's so good. Okay. And now we're going to get into the last two books that have really stood out to me. The second winner that we have, the little winner, is Jazz by Toni Morrison. Maybe it's because I was reading this right when summer was about to begin. We were starting to have our first fully hot days in New York City. I was reading this a lot when I was going into Upper Manhattan. I was spending a lot of time on the subway, and I could just have the sound of the subway mimic the soundtrack to what this book should have. If you don't know what this book is about, it's kind of parallel to the Harlem Renaissance. Jazz, there's the name of it, and it starts with this couple. They are attending this funeral for this young girl that has been killed, and the husband of the wife was the one who killed her because she was the lover of the husband. So it's an affair. It's a book about an affair, but it's also very much looking into the characters surrounding an affair, the characters who suffer because of the consequences of one person. Now, it's not even just explicitly the man who's the only person who has done something, right? How the couple met, the conditions of their meeting. It's so steeped in character-rich development that you can't help but feel something for even those who do the most abhorrent things. There's so much overarching things going on in this, race relations in the United States, the Harlem Renaissance, New York City as a whole, the traumatic effects of a family fractured from the very beginning. I think what I got most out of this, and when I talk about Berserk, I feel I always go into how the innocent are the most affected. At the end of the day, an 18-year-old girl was killed for something that she had no control over. It was almost, her destiny was predetermined before she was even born. So much of what this book goes into is your destiny kind of predetermined because of what has happened to others in your life, in your bloodline, before you were even born. This was so good. Morrison's writing continues to astonish me, and I do think that every time I see people talking about a Morrison, like I said before, I think, is it really that good? And then I read one again, and I said, yeah, it's great. It's so frickin' good. Stand by that. And my number one book of the year, I did just finish this. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Maybe it is because it's proximity. Maybe it is because I did just get over this. Not really. I'm still not over it. This is hands down a new favorite book. At least an author who I'm incredibly excited to read more of her writing. The book is Written on the Booty. No. Written on the Body by Jeanette Winterson. I can't tell you how many sentences I have quoted to my friends, how unbelievable the writing in this is. The writing in this has resonated with me more than any other writing that I have encountered in such a long time. Yes, Morrison's amazing. McMurtry, fantastic. Philip K. Dick, yes, of course. Winterson's writing, I feel it in a visceral way I haven't felt in such a long time. Last year with Christopher Coe's Such Times, one of my favorite books of last year, I felt that. This was poetry on every single page. There were so many moments that my jaw was just on the floor. Still hasn't been picked up. I'm feigning this this jaw existence right now because, baby, it's still on the floor. It's still on the floor. I'm still recovering, okay? Again, this is a book about an affair. This is a book about a very aimless main character whose basis of life is just how they fall in love, and that's the way that they view themselves, is through their lovers. But it's more than that. It's about how bodies are intertwined, about the service of a body, about the service of how we can be so enigmatic and try to push against the boundaries of what we've established for ourselves. But when something crosses your path and there's a magnetism that you just can't explain, every other conscious effort just fails you. And this is put into words so deeply, and it's so illuminating to me. I cannot believe how intelligent Winterson is. And what I think is really great about how this book is written is that the main character is totally genderless, totally nameless. So you can put yourself into the seat of that person and identify what relates most for you. I just have to read you, and this was a book club pick, and I'm so happy that I chose it. The main character embarks on this relationship with a married woman, and something happens to the married woman, and it sends our main character into this frenzied spiral of researching about the body, researching about the ways that the person can still live and exist in their world. And one of the most amazing things I've ever read, there's a section called The Skin, right? The skin is composed of two main parts, the dermis and the epidermis. Odd to think that the piece of you I know best is already dead. The cells on the surface of your skin are thin and flat without blood vessels or nerve endings. Dead cells thickest on the palm of your hands and the soles of your feet. Your sepulchral body, offered to me in the past tense, protects your soft center from the intrusions of the outside world. I am one such intrusion, stroking you with necrophiliac obsession, loving the shell laid out before me. Unbelievable. I just was so engulfed and really wrapped up in this world and this writing. I cannot wait to read more of Winterson. Also, again, similar to Philip K. Dick, incredibly interesting life. Very, very interesting life. And I think that Winterson's life really seeps into this and makes for a captivating read. I loved this. I think it'll be really hard to top this, but we'll see. I am feeling really positive about the books that I've been reading, and I'm also making this as a reminder that I still have a good chunk of the year to go, and I do want to be reading more. I was falling a little bit out of reading. Didn't feel super natural for me for a couple of months this year, but I had great books that I've been reading, so I want to continue that. Yeah. I don't know why I just stopped that thought so short, but yeah, there we are. Anyway, guys, let me know what books you've loved this year. Always looking for recommendations in the comments. As you know, with Lonesome Dove, I got that recommendation through my comments. So I would love to hear what you're reading, what you love. If you've read any of these, what your thoughts are. Always looking for that. You guys are wonderful. You're fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next one. And I know that this color might wash me out, but I just can't help myself. Sorry.